Blockchain Show, episode 21.
Don't. Yeah, so Storj announced a partnership with Heroku. And Heroku is a platform as a service company. So you can build a web application or website in its entirety with just, one company with just Heroku. And you don't have to worry about your own hosting, set up your own, all the different things that go involved in building a web app. You can just use Heroku. It's a little bit more expensive than doing it yourself, but you have somebody managing all the load. So it might be, a whole bunch. And if you have your, one server, it's not going to work. Heroku will spin up a new server for you. But one of the things they do is they have, the ability to store data. So developers use the platform, and at times they need to store data. And so now Storj allows, it's integrated with Heroku. The developer can store storage platform. Storj is a crypto token that allows people to share their extra hard drive space in exchange storage tokens.
It's one of those things that you use the tokens for. It's an ICO.
No, not an ICO at all. An ICO.
Well, you get tokens, right? You store stuff. You're terrible.
An ICO is kind of like a play on an IPO. Do you know what an IPO is?
No.
In IPO world, when a new company goes public, they have an initial public offering, and it's the first time you can. And so they issue a stock, and people who are able to purchase stock. You know what I'm talking about now or no?
Well, I was having to deal with your chop. You were chopping up a little bit. No, I'm sorry. I couldn't understand.
I'm sorry about that. So an IPO, like in the stock market, when a company goes public, they issue shares of their company.
Okay,
It's called an IPO, initial public offering.
We'll go back to the storage thing. I thought you were actually saying storage, the like we used to say in the bits, whatever, storage with a J, but you're actually saying storage.
Yeah, I guess after talking to people who work at Storj, they pronounce it storage, even though it's, STORJ.
Oh. So it's the same thing. I've just been mispronouncing it.
Yeah, I've been mispronouncing it as well. So
yeah, I mispronounced Hermione in my mind for a very long time until. Well, never mind. Carry on.
Yeah. So storage. I thought it was good enough that it was kind of pretty close to storage. It's not like it's not to say like fortune,
right?
But it's up there.
It wasn't embarrassingly off anyway.
Right? Like every time I'm so embarrassed when I say 4chan instead of fortune.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
I still can't get that. It's fortune, no, isn't it? Am I wrong?
4chan.
Yeah, fortune. Like fortune and fame. Fortune. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so Storj is partnering with Heroku. You know what Heroku is?
Well,
you know what Storj is?
You were starting to explain it, but then I led you astray. Go ahead and start explaining it to the world.
Well, Heroku is a platform as a service company. So you can create like a web app or website through Heroku, and you don't have to have like a separate company to manage all the different aspects of setting up a pretty big web app.
Is it like the blockchain Squarespace?
Squarespace. No, Heroku isn't a blockchain company. Heroku is just like an AWS or a Google Apps. It's like a large, not like building just like a WYSIWYG editor for a website, like a web app. So Heroku would be like the Squarespace, but instead of building personal web pages, it's building like web apps. That makes sense. All right, let's just forget the whole Squarespace thing. A developer would use Heroku to build a web app if they wanted to build a web app, and not have to worry about all the individual moving parts. It'd be kind of like if you were a person who wanted to build a web page and didn't want to worry about stuff, and you would go with Squarespace or something like that, where it's a company that handles all the different complexities of building a web page. But a Heroku is more like a web app, so like an application where there's all sorts of different things. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Storj is a blockchain company that allows anybody to rent out their hard drive. If they have extra hard drive space, anybody can exchange or sell that extra hard drive space for storage tokens, which have a value that you can exchange it for Bitcoin. So now, if you are a developer building a web app, so there's probably some companies that you have heard of that use Heroku. Let me go to Heroku's website and see who uses it. You might have heard of maybe like State Farm or something. I don't know. Let's find out. You ever use GoToMeeting? Citrix GoToMeeting?
I've never
There's a pretty
have.
popular thing called GoToMeeting. That's running on Heroku. Belly, which is like that. It's like a company that allows you to small businesses to sign up for those loyalty card things, like a group loyalty card stuff. Hy-Vee, which is like a
That's like a grocery store in Fort Dodge, Iowa, isn't it?
If Then This That does Heroku stuff. It's a pretty big, pretty interesting company.
How random.
Macy's uses it. Malwarebytes uses it. Red Robin uses it. Soylent uses it.
It's people.
Remember Soylent?
Oh, yeah. Who could forget?
Yeah, they use it. So, I mean, it's like, these are some of the companies that use Heroku to build their app. And if these companies wanted to also, like, save money and use the blockchain to store some data instead of using the different data stores, they can do that now, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty powerful integration when you have. I think they might be like, I don't know, maybe like the third or fourth best platform as a service company like that, software building platform. I don't know. They might be higher than that, but I think very clearly AWS is the winner, I think.
AWS is the winner.
It's like Amazon. I think that's pretty much crushing everything. Jeff Bezos actually supplanted, what's the dude's name? Warren Buffett is the second richest man.
Who?
Jeff Bezos.
Is that the Amazon guy?
Yeah, CEO of Amazon. So that's really cool that Storj and Heroku are working together on something. But the bits must go on, and the bits is back. And we had another topic in the bits today, and it was about, this is a big one. Cook County. Do you know Cook County?
Sure do.
Cook County, we know it well. We used to live in Lake County, which is right next door to Cook County. They are running a test on the Bitcoin blockchain for transferring and tracking property titles and other public records.
Very interesting.
So the second largest tracking or recorder's office in the country is going to run a test storing everything on the blockchain. They're working with IBREA, the International Real Estate Association, International Business and Real Estate Association or something, and Velox.re. And so this is pretty exciting. If this goes through, it's the first, start. It's a pretty good start at having like a global real estate registry.
It makes sense. That's a perfect application. There's so many. Healthcare, really.
Yeah, I think that's like a public record that has to be public anyways, and that you need to have like a timestamp where it's important to prove the validity of something by when is timed and that's open to anybody is just perfect for blockchain. And public records are it. In the United States, we have, it'll improve a few things. Like we have like title insurance when you buy a house because the way things are set up. You never know whether, the title you have for a house is actually legitimate. And so when you buy a house, you have to buy title insurance as well in case something gets screwed with your title. You can get a little bit of money. You can get, insurance for that. But in places like Honduras and, Colombia and Bolivia and different places, and there's like no title at all that, you have a house. You have a garden in it, but at any moment in time, somebody bribes the right official. You no longer own that property. There's no records. So it'll help out the United States with being able to have a record on the blockchain. You won't have to worry about title insurance because it'll be anybody can see it, and then you can. It takes like maybe 6 months to settle the closing on a house. Takes a long time for that actually to go through from start to finish. And you can get that down maybe to like, I don't know, a few weeks maybe, in the far future, instantaneous, is an hour for it to reconcile on the blockchain. So.
That's funny it takes that long. There's just so many people. There's so many pieces of paper. There's so much involved. It's astonishing. Right.
And so Cook County is moving to the future, and that's at least testing it. So I hope that test goes well, and that's a big win for Bitcoin. I know we talk about a lot of other cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is kind of like taking a backseat as far as interest in things in my mind compared to other blockchains, but.
Congratulations,
this is a big
Chicago.
win.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So next, like Ethereum is still under attack. They've been under attack for the past few weeks.
How much, when you say that, it's funny because you kind of use that word, which is not funny, I'm sure. Attack. But you're speaking in cyber terms. And it's like a visceral word. It's just so funny because I can't.
You always think you're thinking like a physical attack, right?
Well, yeah, because the word conjures that idea, but
What about like a verbal attack?
I think that's a little dramatic. But yeah, I get it. I've been verbally attacked enough, but I think that's that's pretty tough. Pretty tough to stretch that word in that direction.
What word should I use?
Oh, this isn't a critique. I just think it's funny.
Did we cover the SingularDTV ICO last week or no?
Very briefly.
We did? Oh, okay.
Not a whole lot.
I thought that was a new bid, but so they raised like $7.5 million worth of Ether in 17 minutes.
That's pretty incredible.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
It's all these people.
So like, what's that?
That's a lot of people. Or
I don't know how
very
many
rich
people
person.
actually. Right. It could just be like a few dozen people who got into Ethereum when it was like 80 cents or something.
Can you imagine?
And probably some of those people got into Bitcoin when it was 10 cents, and when they traded it for Ethereum, it was a few $100 per Bitcoin. So maybe have tons of extra money just to keep investing in different things.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shortage of people wanting to invest in the space, and it's kind of ridiculous because there is a lot of scams in this space. There's a lot of like deliberate scams and a lot of people like the First Blood site. It's just a website. We don't have any product built. The website and a white paper. They raised $5.5 million in like 5 minutes 3 weeks ago. There's nothing there.
We got to think of some kind of a blockchain thing. My God, that's pretty.
Yeah, like
they're just throwing money around.
Like Arcade City is a company that we've talked about it a few times on the decentralized Uber and
Wait, decentralized what?
Uber.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uber.
Yeah. And I know that there was always going to be a company, and this is the guy with two first names, Christopher Todd, who I think is, I wasn't sure that he was scamming again, but he has a kind of like a checkered past. And
I don't trust him.
When they moved into Austin, do you guys know what happened in Austin or no?
No.
In Austin, they kicked out all of the ride-sharing apps. So they kicked out Uber and Lyft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the extent of what I know, though. So how did that work out for them? Why? And why to you?
Because the taxis have a monopoly.
Because the taxis have a monopoly in Austin, and of all places, Austin. Wow.
And the taxis have a monopoly in every place. In L.A., in Chicago, in the entire country, they have a monopoly.
But nobody uses them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that most places are having trouble trying to kick them out. I mean, I guess Uber actually like records like politicians going on picking up Ubers and then like threatens them to release their information or something. Kind of weird. So Uber is basically illegal everywhere because in order to get, you have to have a taxi license. Oh. It's one of the monopolies that government's created.
God, that's so silly. Hello.
Yeah, isn't it silly?
Yeah, that's very silly. That's extremely, extremely silly. Just so goofy. It just always makes me mad when I hear that there's even, I wouldn't even think of such a thing. I wouldn't even think that that would be illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal to accept money for a ride from somebody unless you have a taxi license.
Wow.
I think limos might do something strange where they're like personal drivers. You can be a personal driver, which is different than what taxis do, I guess. But whatever. They're all different brackets.
It's infuriating to even try to learn that. That's nuts. Okay, so how'd that work out for Austin?
There was this huge void in the city of Austin, and businesses were losing lots of money, bars particularly, and there's been this huge push in the cryptocurrency community, Ethereum in particular, to build a decentralized Uber that relies on the decentralized nature of the cryptocurrency and build an app around it. And it'll eventually come, but one of the first people to jump into that space was this guy named Christopher Todd, who has kind of like a checkered past, who did stuff that was, scammy. And I kind of felt like our hate city was going to be a scam as well. But they jumped into Austin, and they got some investors. And in Austin, they were doing really, really well. They didn't have an app, though. They just, used, a Facebook page. And on the Facebook page, there was a group of, they created, these groups where you could actually hire a woman to drive you home. So, say you were a 4-foot woman who was drinking at the bar and wanted to get home and actually get a ride from somebody who isn't a creepy male. You could be assured that you were part of, I forget what they called it, Arcade City Ladies or something. I don't really know. But so we were doing it without an app, and they got to the point where Arcade City realized they had to have an app, and so they released this app, but the app didn't do anything. It just promised users or cities that if they did a whole bunch of they said that everybody had to unlock their city. So they spent, millions of dollars on an app that didn't do anything. It is gone from probably a scam to 100% scam. Arcade City has to be a scam in my mind.
They're asking you to unlock your city?
Yeah,
that sounds like a game.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times you can be tech companies will gamify something complete level 1 before you get to level 2. But this is a fucking ride-sharing app, right? not a game. I want to pick up an Arcade City app and hail a fucking ride. I don't want to like unlock my city so I can get a ride. It's ridiculous. But that's what this con artist, this scam guy had to do, because he was getting, he had to release an app but didn't have an app, and so he released this bullshit app that tried to get people to like gamify it and unlock their app. It's ridiculous.
So what happens to a person like that? What's the consequence?
I mean, they get money and they spend it all, and then if they're lucky, they wait 10 years until everybody forgets about them and do it all over again. If they don't get lucky, they get thrown in jail.
Yeah. So which option did he get?
I mean, he seems like he's doing a good enough job where he probably will get away with it. I know that in Dogecoin there was a similar figure who was really scammy. I forget his name. It was like something Ryan something, and he was a pretty prominent member of the Dogecoin community. He created this website where you could like list products for sale for Doge, and Ryan Kennedy was his name. And he just like one day closed shop and took all the money that was in the site that everybody had, just robbed everybody. And it like really destroyed the community in my mind. It's one of the reasons why, Dogecoin didn't do better than it already did. And they kind of like stopped it in its tracks. But he went to jail. He was actually, in addition to being a horrible human being stealing money, he was also like a rapist. And so he went to jail for rape.
There you go. Wow. Karma will get you one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the main sponsors of the hackathon that I went to last weekend published their report on blockchain and healthcare. And so you can kind of like read about that if you wanted to. It's in the bits, and that's all the bits.
That's all the
Yay,
bits? Well, then, listen, I'm gonna say something irrelevant because I thought of you. I did see on my... Why do I always have to talk about Facebook? Well, on my Facebook feed, a friend of mine posted that some Uber or Lyft driver around here. It was one of those things that I was talking about. Like, ultimate. I guess you can be a creep no matter how, or you can be a creep in any form. But this guy, was an Uber driver, and he started driving these people not where they asked to go, acting all creepy, wouldn't respond. They're going to a shady place, so they just decided to open the doors and fall out. That's what they did. And they knew they have a record of the driver with the picture and everything like that, but they can't charge the guy because he didn't technically really do anything. He didn't hurt him. He just was being creepy.
Wow. Man, that's terrible.
Right? Life is weird. Well, is there a debate on tonight, by the way, too? Before we go?
There is a debate on tonight.
Away
so
from blockchain.
Let's see if anybody gets their pussy grabbed.
What's that?
That's a good